Hello and welcome to your Urban Connection. I'm going to get right into this story, ladies and gentlemen. I want to remind you all, some of you might have forgotten, and some of you maybe never knew. But in 2020, uh, Donald Trump, who was president at that time, said that he believed that our military veterans were losers and suckers. Now, those are his exact words. And he didn't receive an awful lot of backlash from that. So I want to advance you now 5 years, 2025. Donald Trump has been in office since January the 20th. Today is September the 23rd. So he's been there for basically 9 months, 2 days or 3 days over 9 months. And in that period of time, he has basically considered at least half of Americans of all stripes to be losers and suckers. Because that's exactly the way he is playing us. And let me explain to you why I say that. Donald Trump ran for this term appealing to his base, MAGA, and saying to them and anybody else who would listen in America that he was going to make your life better. He was going to make your life easier. He was going to do things for you that nobody else could or would do to improve your quality of life. But what he forgot to tell you was that that only applied if you had millions or billions of dollars that you could use to line his pockets to make life better for you. Okay? Those words, I'm going to make things better for you. I'm going to make your life better, make your life easier. I'm going to lower cost. Those did not apply to what's left of the middle class and what exists in big numbers is the lower class people. In other words, the working man and woman. Because Donald Trump in this 9 months has done everything within his power to see to it that the latter two, what's left of the middle class and the entirety of the lower class, don't live a good life in America. You don't live the life that a middle class group would live like in 2010. Okay? We just go back to 2010. So basically, what Donald Trump has done, he went into office and we were suffering from inaffordable or unaffordable housing throughout most of the United States. We were suffering from high prices on everything from gasoline to a loaf of bread. We were suffering from having to spend billions of dollars on wars across the world, including Ukraine versus Russia, which Donald Trump said that he could solve that. He didn't say day one. He said, if you elect me, I will solve this war before I'm even sworn in. You just elect me in November. And before January the 20th, this war between Ukraine and Russia will be over with. He said, I'll lower grocery prices on day one. He said, I'll lower gasoline prices. He said, I'll do things that nobody else has ever done, things that Joe Biden never thought about doing. Well, let me tell you what he did. He was right in one aspect, but he was wrong in so many others. He did not stop the war between Ukraine and Russia. It only intensified. He did not lower any prices, from bread to milk to a dozen of eggs to a head of lettuce, whatever. None of that. As a matter of fact, all of that has gone up since he's been elected. But what he did do was and here's what he did that Biden would never think of doing. Biden, in 4 years of office, passed less consecutive orders than Donald Trump has done in 9 months. That's right, in 9 months, Donald Trump has issued over 230 executive orders. Now, these are not laws. These are executive orders. Joe Biden, in 4 years of office, did not do that many. All right? So basically, what Trump has done is he's played the American public, all of us, for losers and suckers. And how has he done it? He's done everything by bullying members of Congress, instilling fear in them, both the House and the Senate. He's instilled fear in all areas of government, including the courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States. And he has turned back the clock on the freedoms of women, men, Black people, Hispanic people, farmers, and anybody else you can think of. Now, let me tell you what's happening and how he's been able to get away with this, ladies and gentlemen. You know, there's an old rule that says if you give a man an inch, he'll take a foot. And that's what Donald Trump has been doing for 9 months. He's done everything that he wants to do under the guise of it's my way or the highway. He's instilled so much fear in the GOP side of Congress and Senate in the Senate that they have basically given away all of their powers to Donald Trump. In essence, if we were talking about a sports team here, ladies and gentlemen, a sports team puts two teams against each other. And at all times of the game, they both play offense and defense. Well, there is no defense in play for what Donald Trump is doing. It's all offense. He's on the offense. He's controlling the plays. He's running the plays. He's succeeding. He runs over anything or anybody that gets in his way. He threatens them. If you don't do what I say, I'll fire you. He says, if you don't play by my rules, you're out of here. And that means there's no defense because nobody's stepping up to put a stop to what he's doing to destroy the United States of America and make him a dictator, or as he likes to call it, a king. Now, disregarding the fact that America has never had a king. America has never had a dictator. But that doesn't slow him down because of the fact that, like I said, nobody's willing to hold him to account. Nobody wants to hold him accountable to anything. So he runs roughshod over every law that you can put in front of him. He sincerely believes that laws are meant for everybody else, but not for Donald Trump. The Constitution. He wants to run roughshod over the Constitution. He feels like he doesn't have to abide by the Constitution. And the Republican members of Congress, Republican members of the Senate, and sometimes even the Supreme Court don't get in his way. They give him whatever he wants. Can you imagine if Barack Obama or Joe Biden or even George Bush, either one of the Bushes, had even attempted to do just some of the things that Donald Trump is doing without hesitation, without reservation, and without negotiation? Most of these things that he's doing and getting away with are supposed to be authorized by Congress. The president does not have the authority to do the things that he's doing without the approval of Congress. See, executive orders are not laws, ladies and gentlemen. They've not been voted on. They're not bills. And the president's duty and responsibility is to sign bills that are put forward to him by members of Congress, by members of the Senate. Can you name one of the 230 executive orders that he's issued to date in 9 months that has been passed by Congress or by the United States Senate? No. And those members of Congress, those members of the Senate, they know better. They know what the law is. They know what right and wrong is. But they, mostly out of fear, and some of that is physical fear, don't stand in his way. They will even contradict their own opinions that are recorded before Trump was president, and where they can clearly show that they have taken positions that are totally opposite to the positions that they will agree to when it comes from Donald Trump. I mean, it's all over the place. Now, what has Trump done and how has he done this? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at his cabinet and his cabinet members. Let's take a look at Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. She is licking his boots 24/7. Okay? Marco Rubio, who at one time was thought about as being a smart guy. He's the Secretary of State. He's changed almost every position that he had when he was a senator from Florida. And now he's the Secretary of State. And he takes the knee, he bows, and he licks the boots of Donald Trump. Let's talk about Pete Hegseth, who's totally unqualified to be Secretary of Defense. Totally unqualified. He replaced a man that superseded him in qualifications 10 times over. His only qualification was he would be loyal to Donald Trump. Same is true for Tulsi Gabbard. Totally unqualified for the position that she holds, Secretary of Homeland Security. And let's not forget, the Attorney, not the Attorney General, Secretary of the FBI. Okay? This man has shown in 9 months how unqualified he is and was on the day he was nominated. He will look you straight in the eye and do everything he can to keep from telling you the truth. He will try to twist a question, and rather than giving a simple yes or no answer, he has to have a debate with you. And at the end of the debate, he still does not say yes or no. Why? Because in most cases, if he said yes, he knows damn well that it would incriminate him. And he's not about to do that because he has to lick the boots of the president. And I can go on and on and on. But this is what you get when a man has told you before he was elected what he was going to do, and you didn't believe him. You see, he told you that he only wanted to be a dictator on day one. Okay? The rest of the days he wants to be a king. And you didn't form, and this is primarily for the Democrats, but also for the Republican members of Congress and Senate, you didn't form any defense, any defensive mechanisms to prevent him from doing the things that he's done. Breaking all of the rules, disregarding all of the laws, disregarding the fact that he doesn't have the authority to do the things he's doing without having the approval of and having a bill passed to him by members of the Senate and the Congress, the House of Representatives. None of that matters. And in the meantime, the American public, of whom at least 50% fit the description of what Donald Trump calls losers and suckers, sit by and watch it all happen right in front of them. And they don't exercise their power. None of them will organize to present a defense against Trump's offense. And the beat goes on to Donald Trump's beat. And the more he can get away with, the more he's going to do to get away with even more. Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening right before your very eyes. Now let's talk about who are amongst the biggest losers in this 9 months. First of all, I would have to say the farmers of the United States. The farmers are the people that provide the food and necessities for most Americans. They provide products to foreign countries. And right now, every farmer in the country is screaming and hollering about what they thought they were getting when they voted for Donald Trump and what they're getting. And what they're getting, it looks like more than not, a trip to the bankruptcy court because Donald Trump in 9 months has done nothing to help the farming community. He's done everything to hurt them. Let me give you an example. China, in previous years, had bought about 85% of all the soybeans produced in the United States. Farmers were looking forward to that money to enrich them, and I should say further enrich them. And they depended on Trump. They voted for Trump to pass laws, to do things to make it easier for them to sell their harvests to places like China. Well, guess what, folks? China this year is not buying a single pound of soybeans from the United States. Not a single one. You see, they don't give in to Trump's bullying. And Trump thought he could bully them. He thought he could go to China and pull what he does on the United States and bully them into doing things his way. But China doesn't play that game. You see, they don't need America. America needs China. And the U.S. farmers are now finding that out. So the farmers are losing big time. As a matter of fact, one farmer said here just about 2 weeks ago that if things don't change in the next 6 to 8 months, over 75% of farmers will have to file bankruptcy because they're all losing money, because they've got nowhere to go with their crops. And when they don't sell crops, when they don't sell wheat, they don't sell soybeans, they don't sell any of those commodities to China, to Germany, even to Russia, they don't make money. And right now, they're not selling anything, and they're not making money. And I don't care what kind of business you're in, ladies and gentlemen. When that cash register in your business is not singing the tune, cha-ching, 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 your business is not for long. You can only sustain that for a period of time. And in the case of the farmers, some of them will be able to make it another 3 months, some another 6 months, but most will be gone if things don't change drastically in the next 9 months, okay? Now let's take another look. Trump is doing everything he can to reverse all of the progress that was made over the last 50 years, if not more, by the African American communities. Okay? He's getting rid of everything that would benefit African Americans and make their lives better. And yet, you had, in the past election, a larger number of Black men drinking the Kool-Aid by thinking that Trump was going to do something for them. He was going to make life better for them. After all, many of them said, oh, in his last term, Trump sent me a check. Okay, well, now you're getting a check from Trump. But it's not a check that you can take to the bank in cash. You're getting a check mark by removing this program, that program, this program, that program, this subsidy, this job from the reach of African Americans. He's turning and reversing everything he can by eliminating everything positive pertaining to African Americans through museums, through libraries, through even the White House, wherever he can, removing it. Doesn't want it to be part of history. No matter how important it is. Can you imagine what this country would look like if it had not been for the hard work, the sweat, the tears of many African Americans throughout the last 400 years? Can you imagine that? But that doesn't matter to Donald Trump. Because you see, from his standpoint, like I said earlier, he only cares about himself and enriching himself at the expense of you, the hardworking taxpayer. And if you cannot put money in his pocket like the billionaires can, he has no time nor need for you. And that's what's happening. And there's no defense that's being applied to his offense. So I want to put this in perspective. If the Kansas City Chiefs was playing against any team in the NFL, and every time Kansas City had the ball, the opposing team would just allow them to run their plays without any interference, without any defensive mechanism. How many points do you think the Kansas City Chiefs could score in a game? You see, I'm a big NBA fan, but I stopped watching the NBA All-Star game about 3 years ago. And you don't know why? Because of the fact about 3 years ago, for the last 3 years, maybe 4, the NBA has offered, I don't care if it's the East or the West, they've offered no defense against the opposing team's offense. So you've seen scores run up to 190 points or better in a regular NBA game. And there's only one way they could do that, ladies and gentlemen, and that is without any defense being played. They see a guy coming down the court, he's going on a fast break, going to the basket, they just step aside. Let him go. Hell, the team is liable to score 300 points in a game here if they continue on this pattern. So can you think of how much damage Donald Trump can do in little better than 3 years that he has left in this term to destroy this country with no defensive mechanism in place? I know. It's hard to believe. 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, if anybody had ever said to you that America, in just a few short years, will become a dictatorship, not a democracy, will be run by a wannabe king, you would say, get this guy to an insane asylum because he's out of his mind. And now here we are in 2025, and we're seeing it all come to light. A man on offense while nobody is on defense. The sky's the limit. Where are the respectable men of integrity that occupy and who've taken an oath of office to serve and protect the rights of the American citizens as a member of the Congress, as a member of the Senate, as a member of the courts? Where are the civil rights organizations? Where are they? They're silent. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just explain one thing to you before I go. One of the things you must remember silence is nothing more than a form of acceptance. And remember this, an empty mouth does not get fed. Okay? So keep those two things in mind. Donald Trump is not a king. He's a wannabe dictator. And at the rate we're going, he will probably accomplish his mission with no defense coming from anybody, and the American public, the hardworking taxpayers of this country who voted for this man, and I use the word man lightly, are getting exactly what you voted for. You knew who he was. This is his second term. You found out who the real Donald Trump was during his first term. Yet, many of you voted for a man for president who, after 9 months in office, has an approval rating of around 34%. And yet, over 50% of you voted for him. But you're not willing to admit you made a mistake. But everybody around you can see it. Okay. Now, I want to point to one last thing here, and I want to show you something. And just to basically show you all what you're looking at here and what happens here. What's happening to you? And this is a part of what Donald Trump is doing. Okay, I want you to see this man right here. This is Tom Homan. Tom Homan is the border czar for Donald Trump. When you see this man on television talking about his job, oh, he talks really, really tough. He talks about how tough he's going to be, how many immigrants he's going to get rid of in this country. But what you folks don't know, and maybe some of you do here, is this gentleman was caught in an FBI sting just before Trump was elected. He was caught in a sting accepting $50,000 in a plastic bag from undercover FBI agents. Now listen to what I'm telling you. He was committing and undertaking a bribery effort, a bribery offer from these undercover sting FBI agents. He didn't know they were. Now, he was on camera. They have video of him accepting $50,000 cash in a plastic bag. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a crime. And the Trump Department of Justice, after Trump was elected, the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, and I have to assume the President, they all knew that this man had been caught in a sting for which you or I would immediately went to jail, went to court, could be convicted in a court of law, and sent to prison for it. But now, that didn't happen to Mr. Holman. You see, Mr. Holman had his case basically, you might say, dismissed, or the investigation into Mr. Holman was stopped by Trump's Department of Justice. They made it go away. They made it go away. And this is the kind of people that Trump has appointed to very important jobs in his administration. Now, this guy, unfortunately for us, did not have to go before the Senate to be confirmed for this position. This is one of those that Donald Trump could say, hey, this is who I want, and hey, it's a done deal. But this guy was promising business people that he would give them access to contracts and other means of financial assistance if they just ponied up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's called bribery. That's called bribery. And yet this man is not being prosecuted as of today by Donald Trump's Department of Justice, nor the Attorney General. This is just a part of the corruption and the kind of people that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with during his second term. Now, let me just say this. The 50,000 he was caught with, in my opinion, there's much more that he's accepted that he's not been caught doing. You see, because if they will do this, their hands are out. Okay, we've seen it before. Okay? We've seen it before. We've seen it in the Trump administration, where people have attempted to use their positions to provide access to the president for a fee. So you see, this is what you get when you elect a wannabe dictator and a wannabe king. But yet, this is who you folks wanted, who you voted for, and you voted for him in the last election in bigger numbers than you did his first term. When is enough? Enough. You decide. Thanks for watching.